Ever since I drove an hour and a half each way to Aurora, Illinois to show you guys some of the Force USA all-in-one trainers, you guys have been asking to see their brand new C10, and with good reason. It's a really cool machine. So I figured if I drove an hour and a half to see those, I might as well fly 3 hours to Utah to see the C10, and that's where I am right now, is the Force USA headquarters in front of the brand new C10 and the thing that's got you all really excited, the 2 new C10 benches that go along with it. So stay tuned to this video. We're going to show you all the ins and outs, going to show you just like you were here with me here in Utah at the Force USA headquarters. Welcome back to the GymCrafter YouTube channel. My name is Tim. I am the head gym nerd here at GymCrafter.com, the website that I built to help ordinary folks like you and I build home and garage gyms that we absolutely love, and I have been looking forward to today for a very long time. Several months ago, I went out to Aurora, Illinois and shot reviews on the Force USA G3, G6, and G15 all-in-one trainers, and as much as I like those, you guys and myself have been really excited about the new C10 and the associated benches. So when Ryan from Force USA offered to bring me out to Utah to check these things out so that you guys and I could be some of the first people to see this stuff, I said yes right away. So I flew in last night, checked all these out. I just got done with a tour of these really cool new machines, and I'm ready to show you guys everything about them. This isn't gonna be a review. I'm learning this stuff just as you guys are. I'm seeing this for the first time really myself. It'll be the second time as I show you guys, but I'm gonna take you through top to bottom, front to back, and try and answer all of your questions about the new C10 and these new benches. Now I'm gonna do this in a couple of videos because there's a lot to show you. So this video is gonna be on the C10 itself, which is a really cool trainer with some really unique features. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do another video on the benches and how they integrate. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so that you are alerted when those bench videos come out. I'll be releasing them as soon as I can get these things edited. But let's take a look at the new C10. I'm standing in front of the C10, and at first glance, it might look just like any other all-in-one trainers. I think that's one of the big misconceptions out there, is there's a lot of companies out there making all-in-one trainers, and when you look at them from 50 feet away, they tend to look pretty similar. And when you look at the specs, they tend to look pretty similar. And the neat thing about the C10 is there's some really cool stuff. Now, be real honest, like I always am, there's some stuff I really like about this. There's some stuff that I wish was different, and I'll show you all of that as we go on a detailed tour of the unit. But just from an overview perspective, this is an all-in-one trainer, so that basically means it's got a Smith machine, a functional trainer with cables, and it's got a power rack on the front, like a half rack setup so that you can do barbell lifting out in front of the unit. And with the attached benches, which I'll shoot, like I said, another video on, it opens up a world of possibilities that you can do on this particular piece that you can't do on a lot of other all-in-one trainers. As far as the specs of this is a 2x2 upright, 14 gauge steel with 5/8 inch holes that are spaced 2 inches apart. Now, one of the pieces of pushback that I get a lot is people will always say, well, hey, that's not an 11 gauge steel rack. And what I want to point out is this is not a power rack. If you're looking for a 3x3 11 gauge steel power rack, then you can definitely get those. And there's lots of companies that make good ones. I've got reviews of them here on the channel and also on the website. This is more of an all-in-one trainer. This is for folks who want to do everything in one small space. Now, a lot of people will say 14 gauge isn't enough. I've looked at enough of these now to let you know it's not the matter of the gauge of steel that's used, it's how you use it. So as you guys know from watching the channel, I did some reviews on some other budget level all-in-one trainers, and I will tell you that if you don't use 14 gauge steel in the right way, yes, it's going to fall apart. The other brands that I looked at, a lot of them, they rusted, they bent out of square, and you're 100% right. If you use 14 gauge in the wrong way, that's a problem. Force USA has been doing this longer than anybody else. They were the first people to introduce all-in-one trainers back in the early 2000s. I think 2009, if I remember. I learned a lot this morning. But I think 2009, they were the first ones to come out with this. They designed their own stuff. As opposed to a lot of other companies out there, you could go onto Alibaba.com and find the exact models those companies are selling, even though they'll tell you they're engineering them themselves, even though they tell you they're designing themselves. Force USA is one of the only companies who are actually designing these things themselves. So the way that the 14 gauge steel works on this is because of the structure, and you can see there's a ton to this. If this was only a 4-post rack, yes, 14 gauge steel might not be enough. But this has so much to it. It's got dual 220-pound weight stacks in the back. It's got 1, 2, 3, it's got 6 or 8 uprights if you include the poles for the Smith machine. This thing is not going anywhere. It's not going to bend out of square. It's chromed as opposed to powder coated, so you're not going to have an issue with rust and corrosion. It's really better built than a lot of other all-in-ones out there, and that's one of the reasons why I keep showing you guys Force USA stuff. You know, I've looked at all of the all-in-ones. I've looked at your Jacked Up Fitness. I've looked at your McCulloughs. I've looked at your RitFits. I've looked at your Major Fitnesses. I've looked at the Vestas. I've looked at all of that stuff. And while some of those companies do an okay job, some of those companies do a terrible job, Force USA consistently does a really good job as far as quality goes. That's why they offer you a lifetime warranty on the structural integrity of the units. And that says a lot. You're not going to get that from a lot of those other companies that I just mentioned. So I want to put you guys in mind at ease that the 14 gauge is more than enough for these. The other thing you have to remember is that these things can get pricey in the first place. And if you put heavy gauge steel in them just to have a spec on a piece of paper that doesn't have any functional benefit to the machine, what's going to happen is you're just going to increase shipping costs and you're going to increase the overall cost of the unit. And if you don't need to do that, you shouldn't. There is going to be, while I'm here at the headquarters, there are some 11 gauge 3x3 upright things that Force USA makes. They're really nice and I'll definitely show you those. But as far as that big concern that a lot of you guys have, I wouldn't be concerned about the size of the uprights or the gauge of the steel based on what you're buying this type of machine for. So who's buying this type of machine? People who are looking for an all-in-one that goes in a small space in your house, like I said. And with that, let's come in close and look at some of the details of this and what makes the C10 unique among all of the Force USA all-in-ones as well as everybody else's. Normally I would do like a front to back, top to bottom review of these, but I want to jump right into the thing that jumps out right away, which are the trolley arms. This is something that's going to jump out to most people when you walk up to the C10 as one of the most different features of this. Now you've seen some other companies come out with some similar ideas recently, but these are the first ones that have been out on the market. These have been out for a little bit just on the C10, and it's one of the things that makes the C10 unique. So these trolley arms actually swivel back and forth. So with this little button right here, you can actually get them to go all the way out and then also all the way in. And what that allows you to do is a couple of things. You can get a nice wide stretch in the cable crossover. One of the knocks on all-in-one trainers and their cable systems is that the posts and the uprights and the cable trolleys are too close together on a cable crossover to get a nice wide stretch. Whereas with these, you can get them kind of out far, and then the front of these pulleys actually rotate like this. So no matter what direction you're pulling this cable, it's going to be nice and smooth. So this thing works like butter. It's great. There's no issues. I'll show you on some of the B-roll, me using this. This thing works really smoothly. The trolleys work on UHMW, just kind of like reps do, up and down very smoothly. And a nice pop pin in the front to get them locked into place. The way that this adjusts, there's just a little lever at the bottom right here, and they kind of go. There's plenty of adjustments on here to get them at exactly the right angle. The other thing that I really like about these is that a lot of times people buy these all-in-one trainers for the whole family to train, and by allowing you to get these cables off to the side, you can actually have one person using the cable stack out here, another person using the other cable stack over there, and then somebody using the Smith machine inside. So for those of you who like to work out at the same time, you like to work out with your spouses, this is going to be a really nice feature. So in addition to giving you that wider range of your cable crossover, it's going to give you more versatility as far as how many people can train on this at once. So that's something that immediately came to mind. The other thing that's going to jump out at you if you've looked at Force USA stuff is, yes, these are aluminum pulleys. So I've got a couple of things to tell you about these aluminum pulleys. So first of all, it seems like the industry is going to aluminum pulleys simply because companies like Rogue and Rep kind of make the industry in little features like this. And if you want to keep up with the big guys, you've got to have features like that. So Force USA is going to be introducing really soon an aluminum pulley upgrade to any of their machines. This does not come standard with the C10. The C10 and all of their all-in-ones are going to come with nylon pulleys. So a couple of notes about nylon pulleys. Number one, I've tried both here in the showroom, and quite honestly, it's an almost negligible difference. The aluminum pulls slightly more smoothly, but it's not as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. I know some of the YouTubers out there are going, you gotta have aluminum pulleys, man, because it's the coolest and it's the smoothest and everybody needs to have it. And it's slightly smoother. I wouldn't tell you that it's a make or break thing. It definitely looks cooler. The other thing that I would tell you about this is when you look in a commercial gym and you look at commercial equipment, commercial companies use nylon pulleys. And the reason they use nylon pulleys is nylon pulleys actually will wear on the cables a lot less than aluminum. So while aluminum might pull slightly more smoothly, and I think it's a touch quieter, again, it's just a small difference. If you want to prolong the maintenance that you'll need, because eventually cables stretch and they do wear out and they do need to be replaced, in the end, you are going to wear out your cables faster with aluminum pulleys than you will with nylon pulleys. So it's nice that it's an upgrade option and not something that you have to take. If they included it, again, it would raise the price. So it's nice that they have it available for those that want to pay an upcharge and a higher price for something with aluminum versus nylon, but you do have that choice. And If it's not on the website by the time I post this video, it will be soon. You will be able to buy an upgrade package of all of the aluminum pulleys for anything that Force USA makes. As far as installing them goes, I talked to the guy who actually put them in. He said it took under an hour to swap out all the pulleys on this from nylon to aluminum. So it's a pretty easy upgrade, and I don't know the price point. I'll put a link down below if I have it when I edit this video. So one of the things that you buy an all-in-one trainer for is versatility. And the cool thing about, or one of the cool things about the C10 is the versatility of the weight stacks. First of all, you've got dual 220-pound weight stacks, which is one of the most, if not the most, that you'll find in any all-in-one trainer. And the cool thing is this is the only trainer that has 1-to-2, 1-to-1, and 2-to-1 pulley ratios depending on the exercise that you're using, which is really, really neat. So for the low row, you can actually do, because there's 2 swivel pulleys down here, and they both swivel at the bottom, which is nice. You can use them independently. If you want to use D handles, you can connect them together for a low row. This is also where the benches attach for the leg press, hack squat, leg curl, leg extension, the functions that those benches give you. But the cool thing is that down here, you can use either 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2. So you can attach one of these 2 pulleys down here and pull one of the weight stacks. So it's 1-to-1. So if I've got the pin at 50, one of these cables pulls 50. I can connect both of these cables together down here, and it pulls both stacks. So if I've got both pins at 50, you're now pulling 100 pounds. So when you're doing things like a low row, you can do a low row up to 440 pounds. Same thing with the leg press, same thing with the hack squat. You can put a gym pin on here, and these cables are rated to up to 2,000 pounds. So when I asked the guys, I know one of you guys out there asked, how much extra weight can you put on here? I don't think you could buy a gym pin big enough. You'd have to use weighted out real thin plates, but you could put a lot, probably more weight than you could lift. So that's a great answer for that. And the guys looked at me funny and they're like, who's doing more than 440 pounds? So, you know, kind of the way that I think about it is if you're doing leg presses with more than 400 plus pounds, you probably should get a standalone leg press. If you're doing rows and stuff with that much, then you can definitely put gym pins on both sides, connect them together. You can get a ton of weight on here, guys, and the cables will support it. I don't think you're gonna get 2,000 pounds on each side. If you do a 4,000 pound low row, can somebody send me a video of that? I would really like to see it. But that's one really cool thing is that the cables on the trolleys themselves are a 2-to-1. So if I've got the pin at 100, the cables on the front trolleys are the feel weight is 50, and then the lat pull down, I believe, is a 1-to-1. So you've got those options, and it's neat because they've tailored those cable ratios towards the movements that you're gonna do. You're typically gonna use the uprights and the front pulleys for accessory movements and, you know, reverse flies and things like that, even chest flies, so that you're gonna get that 2-to-1 ratio, and you're gonna get a nice long cable pull there, and you're gonna get a nice smooth cable pull there with the smaller weight increments that you can go on. And then for exercises that require more weight, like your low rows and your leg presses, you go to the 1-to-1 or the 1-to-2. So it's very versatile. It's the only one that I've seen like this. Their G15 does like a 2-to-1 and a 4-to-1, which is also unique. But this, I think, actually is probably more appropriate to the family that wants to work out with somebody who wants to do heavy and certain exercises and somebody who wants to do lighter and others. So that's one more area where this is really, really highly versatile. Let's go take a look at the Smith machine and show you that. Okay, so standard Smith machine on this. It's not a counterbalance Smith, which is something that I would like to see, although when you put in a counterbalance Smith machine, you're putting in more workings. And I think with all the different cable ratios here, if I had to choose between, because of a space issue or because of how a counterbalance machine takes up room inside the actual unit. If I had to pick between a counterbalance Smith machine and the different cable ratios, I would probably pick the better cable ratios, but it's kind of a trade-off. But this is a 35-pound Smith bar, pretty standard among all of Force USA's stuff. My normal nitpick with their Smith machine is the bar. The knurling is passive volcano. It's not real passive, it's not slick. You're not going to lose your grip on the bar. And with a Smith machine, it's not as important as a freestanding barbell. But I probably would like to see a little bit more of aggressive knurl. Also, the knurl terminations, they call it a feathered knurl. To me, I would rather see that nice, crisp, clean. It's an aesthetic thing. It's not a functional thing. It's just something that I look at. There is a center knurl, which I like. A lot of Smith machines don't have a center knurl, so I do like a center knurl for both alignment and also for kind of grip on your back when you're doing squats and things like that. One of the really cool features of the Smith machine that I like is that they've integrated to save space. Your safeties are actually the trolleys for the cable system. So that's actually your safety stop. So you don't have to have yet another thing sliding up and down that acts as your safety. You just use these. And another really cool thing is up here, I've got the lat pull down, which I'll show you in a second. You actually use this put some weight on this bar, and then this is going to hold your knees down. So this is what you put your knees under to hold yourself in place when you're doing heavy lat pull downs. Instead of having to have, what a lot of people will do is they'll make you use the functional trainer out here, and then you've got to buy a big expensive kind of a janky seat to put on here, or really one that's not janky is really expensive, and then you've got to attach the seat on here. And what you can do is you can just put your normal bench up under here, put this down to a good height, either rest it with the hooks on the Smith machine or on the safeties, throw some weights on so that it's weighted, and then this is your pad. I think it's a really slick option, and it's a really slick solution to a problem of having, how do you do a lot of stuff in one thing without having lots of extra things you have to hook up, and I do like that. I also like that this is a little bit higher than the top height of the pulley. So we're gonna go up and I'm gonna show you the lat pull down here in a second, and I'll show you a couple things that I think are really slick about this as well. Okay, so I'm set up for the lat pull down. I've got my bar down here, I've got my pad, and then I've got my weights on here. So I really, like I said, I like this solution. There's a couple things I do wish were different. When you look at the uprights, they are laser etched, but because they're not colored in or anything, it's actually kind of hard to see the numbers on the uprights, and I wish that they were either cut out where they were easier to see, or they were painted or something like that. You'll see on the B-roll that it's just a little bit hard to see, so when I'm trying to line things up at the same height on both sides, it's a little bit difficult if you've got low light in your gym. Also, this pad, in my opinion, maybe it's just because I'm a big person, if I'm on either side of it, I'm not fully hitting these. I kind of got to squeeze my knees together to get under this. I would either use maybe 2 of these would be cool, or just use a wider pad. I think this probably needs to be 6-8 inches wider would be perfect. But right now, like I said, my feet are kind of just hitting the edges. But as far as a solution for not having to have some type of a special seat, I really, really like this option. I've only got 45-pound plates on here, and it's more than enough to hold me in place to do, pretty much as heavy of a lat pull down as I want. Let me take you up top and show you something cool about how they connect. When we're up top here where the lat pull down connects, number one, it's great to have a center portion for this. I like this for a couple of reasons. Number one, before we get to the lat pull down, this is where I would do my tricep push downs. I'm seeing a lot of reviews on other all-in-one trainers where they're trying to do the tricep push downs on the post itself where the functional trainer is. And this side right here, at least on this machine, is definitely a lower top end point than it is here. So I can do my tricep push downs here and get full extension and not have to worry about it. I'm 6'6", so if I can do it, you guys can do it. And then the nice thing about the ratios up here is I've got both pins at 50 pounds. So if I use just one of these cables, then it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So for those who want to go in smaller weight increments, you can definitely do a 2-to-1. You connect them together for a 1-to-1. So right now with both pins in 50, one cable is a 25-pound feel weight. If I take this plate and connect it in, now I connect my lat pull down, whatever accessory I want to use here, and then that's going to be a 2-to-1. So with both pins in 50, this is now a 50 pounds. So you're topping out at the lat pull down at 220 total feel weight, and that's going to be a lot for most people. Like I said, you can definitely put gym pins up to really as much weight as you want, so there shouldn't be any weight restrictions on this for you. Now, the issue with this as a tall guy is when I add this accessory, we're adding a good 6 or 8 inches in height here, or actually losing 6 to 8 inches in height, and so I don't know if I can get a full stretch. The cool thing is they've thought about that, so when you look at least the wide grip lat pull down, instead of using this, which is what I would use for like a neutral grip or something like that, if you look at the pull down bar itself, what you can see is they've actually got connections if you want to do a single here in the middle, or if you want to use a dual. So what I would do if I was setting it up is, for me, I'm going to use the dual setup. And so let me get this set up with 2 of them, and I'll set the camera up, and we will find out together if I can get a full stretch, because that's something that one of you guys wanted to know. So I am set up for a lat pull down. I've got the dual attachment up at the top. I've got my bar set up right here, and let's take a look. So yeah, so hanging here, there's the top, there's me sitting down. So full stretch. So that's pretty awesome. You get a full stretch on the lat pull down, which is something that if I can do it at 6'6", pretty much any of you guys are going to get a full stretch as well. And let's take a look at how this works as a power rack. There's a couple of things that I've noticed as I'm setting this up and using it that I think you guys are really liking. They're changes from the other Force USA products I've showed you, which I haven't necessarily been a huge fan of the power rack function. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If your primary mode of training is barbells, if you're a barbell guy, you're not going to want an all-in-one trainer for your training. You need to get yourself a 3x3, 11 gauge steel, 4 or 6 post rack and train with a barbell. I love doing that kind of training myself. And a lot of times people look at this and go, well, this isn't that. And you're 100% right, this isn't that. But if you need something that fits a lot of stuff in one spot, you want a functional trainer, you want a Smith machine, and you also want to do some barbell work, this is one of the better offerings that I've seen Force USA do. Now, a couple of really interesting things. Normally in a functional trainer, you've got cables on the front or cables in the back. No matter where you put this trolley, you've got a cable in the way. And the way that Force has dealt with that in the past, and the way that better companies have dealt with that, is they offset the cable off to the side. What I really like about this is when your trolley is up out of the way, there's no cables at all. You just have a solid upright. So if you want to attach your J-cups, you want to attach your spotter arms, there's no cable in the way. So if you're going to bench press with a regular barbell, if you're going to squat with a regular barbell, nothing's going to be in your way. Now, one of the things I'll point out is, for me, I probably couldn't squat because this is as high as they go. I'm going to need these down here to get the J-cups in the right spot, and now these are going to be in the way. Now, real easy way to deal with that is you just loop the cable around the Smith machine and it makes room for your J-cup. So if you are in a situation like this, you can definitely do it. It just takes a little bit of a workaround. But for people who aren't ridiculously tall like myself, you're not going to have a cable in the way once you get these trolleys up and out of the way. And now let's move on to something that I still think needs improvement. Now, I talked to the guys here at Force and they said they are working on this, but let's take a look at these spotter arms. As far as the build quality goes, they're heavy duty, they're really nicely made, they lock on nice, the welds are good, you've got nice UHMW plastic across the top. My issue is that you've got a bare metal piece here and you've got a bare metal piece here. Now, typically you shouldn't be sliding it into this, but what they tell me is that they are going to put UHMW over these two spots. And the other thing is, I would say, is if it was up to me and I was designing it, I'd probably make these another 6 inches deeper. It's not a hindrance. It's not like some of these that I've seen are this short, and it's definitely usable. And I've done rack pulls on here and I've done some benching and things like that. I'm not worried about it. The one area that I had a little bit of a concern, if you're gonna squat with a barbell, I would like to see these a little bit deeper. So it would be cool to have these a little bit deeper, but they did say that they are going to go ahead and cover these in UHMW. That upgrade should be coming soon, but that is something that I do wish that they'd change on this, is the length of the spotter arm. Now, the J-cups, which on the other reviews that I did for Force, I was not a fan of, check this out. Roller J-cups come with the C10. Super cool, right? So you've got the roller J-cups here. I now have protection on the front of the spotter arm. I've got protection on the back of the spotter arm. There's going to be no metal-to-metal contact for your barbell, which is a big problem that I had with the old one. In fact, their old G6 even had like this weird funky bolt right here. So that's really, really cool. Normally, roller J-cups are going to be a huge price for an add-on. There's only a couple of companies out there that even make decent ones, and these are actually pretty good. You've got a nice little groove here so that your bar slides back and forth. It seats in exactly the right spot. There's a right and a left so that as you move things right and left, you're not going to have any issues. And if you don't want rollers, it comes with these little blocks. You can actually take the screw out here and insert a block so that you can just make a standard J-cup. But again, huge upgrade in their J-cups. I appreciate that. And this is a great example. You know, I said that they're upgrading the spotter arms. Well, this was in response to folks like myself, other reviewers, users who said, hey, your J-cups aren't all that great. Can you fix them? And they went right to work and they fixed them. So that's something that I really like about this company versus, like I had mentioned at the beginning of the video, some of the other companies that are buying stuff straight off of Alibaba. Even though their commercials will tell you that they have engineers and designers, they don't. And they're just buying whatever they can buy off the internet, slapping their own brand name on it and putting it out, whereas this stuff is going to change over time. So this is a really cool upgrade. And for those of you who want to use this to train with a barbell, I honestly, like I said, other than maybe heavy squats out in front of the rack with a barbell just because the spotter arms aren't long enough, this is going to be more than enough for most people, especially if you don't have room in your gym to have a separate power rack and to have all this other stuff. So really good solution there. And honestly, if you're going to squat heavy on this, you can definitely do that on the Smith machine. And if you're worried about safety and things like that, that's a good way to do that. The bar path for a squat matches the bar path for a Smith machine, unlike a lot of other exercises. So it's not a bad substitute to do that. So let's walk this back out front and I'll give you a kind of a wrap up of this, and then I'll move on to the benches. So that's the walkthrough of the Force USA C10. Let me know in the comments below what questions you have. I've spent probably 4 hours with this thing now, so I've got a good overview of it. I've spent some time with the product engineers here and the folks here showing me all the ins and outs of it. And if I can't get an answer, I'll definitely have Force USA get you an answer. But overall, I do like it. Now, the question is, and what I always try to be honest with you guys is, would I spend $39.99 on this? And the answer is, it depends. So with my current garage gym setup, as you guys know, where I've got a ton of room, I probably wouldn't, because I'm gonna go ahead and do a big power rack. I like lifting with a barbell. Barbell training is my primary mode of training. I'm not a huge Smith machine fan personally. That said, there are an awful lot of situations that I could find myself in where I would buy this in a heartbeat. And here's kind of what I'm looking at. If I was in a situation where maybe I wasn't single and living by myself, where I could use my whole garage for a gym, or it wasn't my business, and I had just a small area to try and get a lot of stuff in, this is probably the best all-in-one functional trainer, Smith machine, power rack combination that I've seen, especially when you combine it with the C10 benches that go with it. It's really, I don't see any other way to fit this much stuff in a small area and have it be high quality. Now, there's a lot of stuff out there where you can get 87 different exercises in a small footprint for $19.99, right? And what I would tell you is, having owned some of those and having tested some of those, if you want something that's only gonna last you 3 to 6 months, those are great. If you want something that's gonna last you a really long time, this is a really good option. For folks who have families, if you have a spouse and some older kids who want to work out, or even some younger kids you want to get in the habit of training, having all of these different functions and having the ability to work out on a Smith machine and a barbell and the functional trainer and do the low row and do the lat pull down and attach the benches for leg presses and leg curls and leg extensions all in one spot, it's really, really a good value, especially, like I said, for the build quality. So that's kind of my overall look. Is a lot of people, when I get comments on these videos, is people will say, hey, this isn't, this isn't this. And it's right, this isn't this. Like I said, for me, I like training in a big old 6-post power rack, so that's my preference. I would love to have this on the other side of the gym. So if I was to have a secondary option, that's another thing that I would get it for, is if I had more money than I do. So if any of you guys want to send me some extra money, that would be awesome. But if I found myself with the ability to have it in the budget, to have a standard power rack on one side and then have this on the other side, especially with the benches, which I'll show you soon, it's a really, really cool value. It's, like I said, it's very well built. The company's been around for a long time. So overall, I do really like it, depending on your application. So hopefully that gives you enough information. If you decide that you want to get one of these, I'm going to put a link down below. Just go to forceusa.com/GymCrafter. There is a coupon code there for 5% off, so that'll save you some money as well. And I appreciate you using those affiliate links. That's how I fund things like this. So while Force was nice enough to fly me out here and everything, it still does cost me out-of-pocket money to have my dogs at the dog sitter and all that kind of fun stuff. So definitely help me out by using those affiliate links down below if you can. And until the bench review, which is coming up next, I'm Tim with GymCrafter.